Hello, good weekend. This is Doc Severson for the ReadySetCrypto OMNIA trade of the day for Sunday, the 12th of September. In this weekend's report, we're going to look at the top two assets, Bitcoin and Ethereum, and see how they're doing from a longer term perspective, intermediate term, and then, of course, shorter term perspective. We are seeing a generally positive day in the markets today. Just about everything is up. We are going to look at some of the more popular assets that have run away recently, and these are ones that we feel that you should not chase, but where can you get in on a contrarian basis if the price pulls back? Where is a good place for you to add or enter a position on a pullback? We'll look at those as well. Starting off here with Bitcoin versus the US dollar, I have a monthly chart up, and this is a log chart. This is our North Star. If we go to a linear chart, you can see how strong this recent move has been after all of this bear market that we had from 2018 on through halfway through 2020, finally breaking out to the upside. This is a new cyclical bull that we are in, but we have some concerns. As always, we don't want to become complacent that this could become, and I'm saying could in air quotes, right? This could become a lower high. This could roll over and create a new monthly downtrend. So this is what we have to guard against. We can't prevent that from happening, but what we can do is take the appropriate actions should we see that happen. So if the price does throw in a lower high and roll over underneath about 28,000, then more than likely what's going to happen is this is going to come all the way back down here and at least test the swing test here at 20,000, if not drop lower into volume profile support. Now that's worst case scenario. That only is going to happen if there's some type of exogenous event which occurs. And what I do want to mention at this time is that we all get used to just looking at the crypto market by itself, but it's not by itself. So if we have something that happens here, and I'm just going to go out to the S&P 500 and do the same thing here. If we have a serious event on the S&P 500, much like what we saw last year, a year and a half ago, if we do drop again like this, and a lot of people are calling for that, although I don't necessarily see it happening when everybody's calling for it. You have to understand that these markets are many, many more times larger than the crypto market. So if these get destroyed, at least temporarily, what happens is there's a whole downside snowball of margin calls and redemptions that happens, because people that are getting a margin call will liquidate whatever they have to liquidate. Whatever asset that they can get their hands on to liquidate will occur. And this will happen to Bitcoin as well, too, if that happens. So even though Bitcoin can fundamentally be in a great shape, right, we can have the same thing happen as what we had March of 2020. So to me, that is the most likely reason for an outlier move to the downside, is that we have some kind of event that occurs, and usually those are unpredictable. You cannot see them coming. So in my mind, the more that people call for a crash in the larger markets, the less likely that is to happen. Usually crashes occur when people are most optimistic and euphoric and see no reason to take any kind of downside precautions. That is not the case right now. So I don't see this happening. But I do want to warn you that this is a possibility. This is always a possibility that this could create a lower high and then roll over. So we need to account for that in our analysis, not to say that that's the most likely occurrence. The most likely occurrence is that we probably will have some kind of combination of consolidation in this area, right? Because this is one hell of a move, guys. Let's be honest here. So consolidating in this area and building up another triangle, very likely to occur, because what we're seeing is a lot of the assets, or a lot of the capital is going to assets that are really running. Like Solana is a great example of this. So things that are popular, that leverage NFTs, or who knows what's going to be next on this list. But capital will always run into areas like this where people see the hot latest thing. Bitcoin's not necessarily the latest hot thing lately. It's more of like digital gold. Okay, so I've got that out of the way. We do have to account for a potential lower high here setting up. Could happen. It's unlikely to happen though. All right, so let's from there, let's go down to the linear chart. So you can see on the linear chart, let's go to energy analysis. How is this coping with this crazy move from earlier this year? And what we're seeing is that the energy is ramping back up. And I'd say within a month or two, we're going to be dropping some of these large linear candles off of the back end of this, and we're going to be in good shape for energy, which is good news. That means that will support a continued uptrend. When we got to this point here in early April, where we had super exhaustion on the monthly chart, this starts to increase the probabilities that any little negative data point will crash the markets, and this is what happened. So people use this as an excuse to profit taking, but we've bounced back up again. Things look pretty good. Now, what I've talked about on the weekly chart at length, and this is actually good because up until last week, I've said, look, this is a great start to things. This is a great start, but we still have a lower high, lower low downtrend in play. This is the beginning of a reversal, but we've got to see from here is some type of a higher low followed by eventually a higher high. So we need to put in that higher low. And so this is why I was saying over the past weeks, like, okay, great. But at some point you got to put in a higher low. And this looks like to be part of that process. Now, let's just go out to, let's expand this out just to the fib retracements, and let's throw a fib retracement onto here. And we can see that this is at least a 38.2 retracement. And this could go a little bit deeper into a 50% if it wanted to, but appears to be that we have some support down here, which is fine. So this checks the box in terms of me wanting to see at least a 38.2 retracement. Now, this isn't going to just, and I said this last week, this isn't going to just bounce straight up again. Very, very unlikely. What it is likely to do is to wander around, meander for a few more weeks as everything builds up energy. Let's go back to the RSI Laguerre. We are a little bit, now what's happened is this has turned into a linear move to the upside. So we're a little bit energy deficient on the weekly chart. This could use a few more weeks of bouncing around in here. And so I see this as being a really frustrating period of time to be a Bitcoin investor. It's probably not a bad time if you're a Bitcoin trader. If you're going to trade something down here in the intraday charts, you're going to get lots of volatility. It's going to be bouncing around up and down within a range. And it's probably not going to break out for a number of weeks before this finally resolves either to the upside or, as I said before, maybe to the downside. So to me, all is going according to plan for Bitcoin. You're just going to have to be patient. You're used to moves like this, especially if you're a newer investor into these assets. You're used to moves like this. You're not used to corrective patterns. You're not used to things like ABC corrections. So this will come, but it's going to have to wait. It's going to have to wait until it does its dirty work here of consolidation. Range expansion goes to range contraction. This eventually, the probabilities state that this will go back into range expansion at some point. And we're hoping that that's in this direction. All right, let's go to Ethereum. Ethereum is in an interesting spot because it's not that far away from all-time highs, and it's actually been very strong. Let's do the same thing here. Let's get rid of the energies. Let's throw the fibs on this one, And we're going to go all the way down to the very bottom of this one to get an idea. And you can see how 38.2 has come really into play for this as well. And I'm going to put on some volume profile onto this. Volume profile shows where the support is. And notice how we have a very high volume node right around this area. There's been a lot of trading in this area, and this forms a support node. If this does fall through here, then the next level of volume profiles down around this area. You can see the point of control is about 2,300 or 2,400 right now. So this looks to be a good level of support for this point right now. And nice 38.2 fib retracement. Everything looks pretty good here. Let's look at this from an energy perspective. And this is the daily chart. This is recovering some energy. Let's go out to a larger time frame. Ooh, we're close to exhaustion on the weekly chart once again. This has been a very strong move off the bottom for Ethereum. That's great, but range expansion, range contraction, this is probably going to need to spend several weeks at this point. And what it's going to end up doing is creating a cup with handle pattern. So we're probably going to consolidate between these areas here. So it's going to be anywhere from 3,000 up to 4,000 is more than likely going to be the handle for this. Now, the upside target for this is the depth of this, which is 4,000 down to 1,750. That's pretty big. The difference being 2,250. And so if we append 2,250 onto the top of this, we're going to find that that's going to be a measured move target of about what, 6,250. Not bad. I'd like Ethereum at 6,250, please. So everything looks pretty good for this one. We'll have to see a breakout on really good volume happening from this guy. Similar to what we had here. This is good breakout volume. This is good breakout volume. We'll have to see this breakout above 4,000 on really good volume. We'll also have to see the energy be much higher than it is right now. Probably needs to go a little bit longer at this for a few more weeks and avoid any crashes on the larger financial markets for this to occur. Okay, so here's Solana. Now look at this. Look how nicely this plays out. Range expansion. This is a weekly chart to range contraction. Breaks that level there back at the end of July, which is about 32, and goes straight up to 200. Oh, would have, could have, should have, right? Look at the volume with this. Volume will also always signal the right entries for this. So this needs a rest. This needs a pullback. There's no way I'm chasing after this thing. Now, if you look at this chart, we can look at some of the levels that would be perfect entries, right? If this came all the way back down to 60, that would be a swing test entry. Unlikely to happen. Unlikely to happen. So that'd be great entry, but probably not going to get it. So let's look at this from a realistic standpoint. Let's throw some fibs on here from the very last. Okay, so that's the major swing. And you almost have to do this on a weekly chart so you can avoid the noise, because doing this on a daily chart, you're going to see candles all over the place and noise. So really what you're looking at here is there's 3 entry points. Each is a bit more aggressive than the next. So if we see the price pull down to about 142, that's going to be a 38.2 fib retracement. Now, I wouldn't be aggressive at this point. I guess it depends on how badly you want to get into this. But right now at a weekly chart, which is in super exhaustion, I would expect this to go into some type of very heavy consolidation move. And you might get a print as low as 100 to 96, which would match out with a 61.8% retracement. You may get that print. And that would be, I believe, an excellent entry. So if you just stick a limit order down there at somewhere between 96 and 100, put it on good till canceled so it doesn't cancel today, and just sit there and wait for it to come back down. You will more than likely be an owner of a portion of Solana at some point. Will that be the very bottom? I don't know. The very bottom could be that swing test down here at 60. A lot of times these assets in crypto tend to get very, very hot, and just as quickly they get very, very cold. I mean, you guys have all followed Chainlink in the past where it's gotten super hot and then it just cools off like instantly. Tezos is another one where we think it's going to the moon and then it comes all the way back down. Will Solana be the same thing? Maybe. A couple of others that we have looked at recently have been Axie Infinity. We can do the same thing here with Axie Infinity. You can see some pretty deep retracements from this. So Axie Infinity recently over the last week almost got down to a 50% retracement. This one's been super strong. Again, this one is just starting to recover and only because of this candle. So would wait for a weekly chart to show that it has the potential energy to sustain the next leg. Here is Hex, and this is versus US dollar, which is probably not how you're going to pick it up, but this is a good way to chart this at the very least. If we look at the latest swing from this guy, you can see the same kind of thing. So fib retracements are good places to offer very objective play spots and prices to be able to pick up inventory. Look at the volume on this. So this one's been terrific as well too. So this one looks like probably, you know, an aggressive entry would be about 34 cents. A less aggressive entry would be about 25 to 26. And the swing test in this case would be about 20 cents, which is a long way down there, but it could happen. All right, so folks, that's pretty much it. I'm not going to go through the rest of the top 20. If there are any assets that you want me to do more of a deep dive on, please let me know. Just reach out in support at ReadySetCrypto.com and just drop me a note, and I'll be happy to do it on one of the subsequent newsletters that we do this week. Anyway, that's it for today's report. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday.